Hello there. The Irish state is now at war with its own people. Clashes are growing between police and Irish citizens who are protesting against unchecked migrants being forced into their communities. And make no mistake about it, this could turn very nasty. Tensions are sprinting towards breaking point in the Republic of Ireland. Their government is intent on filling every nook and cranny with newcomers, and the people are getting angrier by the day. And last night it kicked off outside River Lodge in Newton Mount Kennedy in Wicklow, a dozen or so miles south of the centre of Dublin. Emotions had been tested all day, but snapped when darkness fell and violence erupted between the Gardaí and anti-refugee protesters. It seems that when democracy fails the people, the pitchfork becomes the decider. Dublin Live said, "Several Garda public order units rushed to the Wicklow town tonight to support officers already at the scene after protesters clashed with Gardaí at River Lodge. The site has been the scene of repeated anti-refugee protests since rumours first emerged in January that the site could house dozens of international protection applicants." And one of those previous clashes included an arson attack. Now here's how The Guardian summarises the situation in Ireland. Ireland is accommodating more than 100,000 refugees, about 3/4 from Ukraine. The influx has coincided with an acute housing crisis that has driven up rents and homelessness and fuelled anti-immigrant sentiment. A riot last November wrecked parts of central Dublin. And that's The Guardian, so you know it'll be much worse than that. Now there are no asylum seekers in the River Lodge, as of yet. But the locals fear that it is being prepared to accommodate some. And no one has tried to disabuse them of that fear. No one has said that's not happening. So one assumes that is its intended use. So the locals are responding by attempting to use preventative measures to ensure it will never be used that way. I say locals, but the police will no doubt label them as outside activists determined to foment violent unrest. Either way, the protesters obviously have very, very strong opinions on the matter. So why is no one listening or engaging? Or is it the case that the cat of true intent is now out of the bag, and there's no turning back? And the establishment has no care how their people feel or react to it. With the result that the Gardaí came fully prepared to beat off the protesters, and they seemed quite content to teach the locals the lesson that their views matter very little to the authorities. They then patrolled the streets in riot gear-clad strength to press home the message: hard. Policing by consent does not appear to be the order of the day in Ireland right now. And there are disturbing videos circulating social media of an Irish police force acting more like the notorious Black and Tans rather than keepers of the peace. Videos where much of it would probably not make it past the gatekeeping algorithm of this platform. And they are an illustration of how far the Irish establishment seems prepared to go to force its agenda, or should I say the WEF agenda, on their unwilling people. So what does the Irish government do? Well, it attempts to shift the blame, of course. And where do they point the finger of blame? At the UK, of course. Where else? The Deputy PM of the Irish Republic, Michael Martin, and their Justice Minister, Helen McEntee, have claimed that 80% of those seeking asylum in the Republic are coming from the UK right now. Not UK citizens, of course, but those using the UK as a refugee land bridge between the rest of the EU and the Republic of Ireland. Because once in the UK, people can easily make their way into Northern Ireland and walk over the open border between North and South Ireland. And given that Ireland only deported 100 out of over 7,000 failed asylum seekers last year, you get to realise that they might be a softer touch than the UK government is, if that's at all possible. And guess what? The Irish Republic demanded that the border remain open after Brexit to force the UK to have an internal border across the Irish Sea. Well, that open border they insisted on seems to be causing Dublin one almighty headache right now. If these claims are true, of course. Karma, eh? With the Irish Deputy PM saying that asylum seekers are seeking sanctuary here and within the European Union as opposed to the potential of being deported to Rwanda. Music to Rishi Sunak's ears. And UK ministers have been straight on this, claiming that the threat of the Rwanda scheme is forcing people to leave the UK for the Republic. The scheme is already working, they claim. What a load of bollocks. The Irish are moaning that loads of asylum seekers arriving on their shores are coming from the UK, and the Tories are straight on it, claiming the Rwanda deal is already working. As I said, what a lot of bollocks. As far as I'm concerned, the Irish government is using this Rwanda angle to try and divert people's attention away from, firstly, their vigorous plans to import as many people as possible, and secondly, them cursorily signing off the new EU Pact on Asylum and Migration. Yes, they've signed up to it. Something that the independent Irish Senator Michael McDowell warned represented the surrendering of sovereign rights in respect of migration and asylum seeking. And he was the senator that played a massive part in getting the electorate to reject those recent 2 woke referendums on taking the traditional family out of the Irish constitution, if you remember. He can see the true danger to Ireland of that migration pact the Irish government has agreed to. And I can see a Keir Starmer Labour administration signing off on that migration pact for the UK as well, despite Brexit. Now, the Irish Justice Minister Helen McEntee is due to meet with James Cleverly, the UK Home Secretary, early next week, to try and come up with a plan to stem the flow of newcomers over the north-south border. And that's when the alarm bells began to ring for me. Because what the Republic of Ireland government, and probably the EU too, will be demanding is that the UK toughens up the Irish Sea border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. They will demand that we put in place passport checks and the like for all people travelling into Northern Ireland. They will use it as an argument to drive the wedge further in between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. They will insist that we protect their border between the Republic and Northern Ireland. That will be seen by the EU and the Republic, and obviously by Joe Biden too, as the only way of protecting the Good Friday Agreement and the Brexit Trade and Cooperation Agreement. You can see it coming a mile off, and it would not surprise me if talks on this had not already been taking place. And all they needed was a catalyst moment. As far as I'm concerned, if the Republic of Ireland is so keen on that open border, then they can wear the consequences of it. So the message to Ireland should be, go and talk with your EU mates in Paris and Brussels and get them to stop the boats leaving the French beaches in the first place. Then your problem would go away.